7 days. That's how long my wife went silent while supposedly on a business trip in Denver. 7 days of ignored texts and calls going straight to voicemail. Most husbands would panic, call the police, assume something terrible happened. I'm a software engineer. I don't panic. I investigate. And what I found in those credit card statements, call logs, and hotel records made me realize my wife wasn't in danger. She was in love. With her boss. In a luxury suite they thought was their secret. So I did what any husband with nothing left to lose would do. I invited her parents to dinner and showed them exactly who their daughter had become. What happened next will haunt her for the rest of her life. Viewers, do you believe in public accountability for private betrayals? Comment below. Before this story begins, subscribe. You'll never look at relationships the same way again. My name is Steven Johnson. I'm 34 years old, a senior software engineer at a mid-sized tech firm in Austin, Texas. For the past 7 years, I've been married to Tina, my college sweetheart, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. We have a modest 2-bedroom house in the suburbs, no kids yet, but we'd been talking about it. Or at least, I thought we were on the same page about everything. I'm the kind of guy who keeps his head down, does his work, trusts the people he loves. My father always told me, Steven, loyalty is everything. He died when I was 19, and those words stuck with me like a brand on my soul. Maybe that's why what I'm about to tell you hit me harder than it should have. This is the story of how 1 week, 7 days of silence, unraveled my entire life, and how I made sure everyone involved would never forget what they'd done. It was a Tuesday morning when Tina first mentioned the trip. She came into the kitchen already dressed in her navy blazer, the one she wore for important meetings. Her makeup was done, hair straightened perfectly. She worked as a marketing director for a pharmaceutical company, and lately she'd been coming home later, more distracted, her phone always face down on the counter. I was at the kitchen table with my laptop, reviewing code before my morning stand-up meeting, when she poured her coffee with hands that seemed just slightly unsteady. Steven, I need to tell you something, she said, not quite meeting my eyes as the coffee steamed between us. I looked up from my screen, closing the laptop halfway. What's up? Daniel's taking me on a business trip next week. We're pitching to a major client in Denver. It's a huge opportunity for the company, and for me. Her voice had that rehearsed quality, like she'd practiced this in the mirror. Daniel. Her boss. 42 years old, divorced twice, with the kind of smooth confidence that always made me slightly uncomfortable at company events. I'd met him once at a holiday party last December. He'd shaken my hand too firmly, held eye contact too long, and called me Steve even after I corrected him. Tina had mentioned him before, always in passing, always professionally, but 3 months ago she'd let slip during dinner that he'd been through a messy divorce and was finally getting his life back together. The way she said it, with this sympathetic softness in her voice, made something in my gut twist like a warning I refused to hear. A week? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral, trying to ignore the way my father's voice echoed in my memory about trusting your instincts. 5 days, actually. Monday through Friday. We'll be in back-to-back meetings, Steven. It's going to be intense. She was looking at the coffee now, watching it swirl. Monday came like a funeral I didn't know I was attending. Tina left at 5 in the morning and I barely heard the door close, just felt the cold space where her body should have been. I texted her around lunch while debugging a particularly nasty memory leak in our production code. How's Denver? Miss you already. No response. The cursor on my screen blinked like it was mocking me. I texted again at 6 that evening after my last meeting. Everything okay? Just checking in. Nothing. By 10 o'clock I was pacing the living room, phone in hand like a lifeline to a person who'd already drowned. I called. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same robotic voice telling me the customer I was trying to reach was unavailable. Here's something I haven't mentioned yet, something that makes this whole thing cut deeper. When I was in college, my first serious girlfriend Rachel cheated on me with my roommate. I found out by accident, walking into our dorm room early one afternoon between classes. The image of them together, tangled in sheets I'd helped wash, carved something out of me that took years to fill back in. Tina knew this story. She'd held me when I told her on our 3rd date, promised me with tears in her eyes she'd never make me feel that way, that I was safe with her. I tried to sleep but couldn't. The bedroom felt too big, too empty, like I was floating in space without a tether. Our wedding photo on the nightstand stared at me in the darkness. We looked so young in that picture, so certain. I'd written my vows on a napkin at 2 in the morning the night before, pouring out everything I felt. "I promise to trust you with my whole heart," I'd said, voice cracking in front of 200 people. "I promise to never doubt us." The memory tasted like ash now. Something felt wrong. Not just wrong, but fundamentally broken, like when you're debugging code and realize the error isn't in the function you're looking at but in the architecture itself. My father used to say he could feel bad news coming, said it sat in his chest like a stone. I felt that stone now, heavy and cold. I grabbed my phone again, scrolled through our text history. 3 weeks ago, Tina had sent me a heart emoji after I'd brought her coffee at work. 2 weeks ago, she texted "love you" after I'd asked if she needed anything from the store. But looking at them now, they felt mechanical, obligatory, like someone checking boxes on a list. When had we stopped really talking? When had our conversations become just logistics and pleasantries? The clock read 2:17 in the morning. I was still awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I was being paranoid while knowing deep in my bones that I wasn't. Tuesday afternoon arrived with the weight of sleeplessness pressing behind my eyes. Still no word from Tina. I'd sent 4 more messages, each one feeling more desperate than the last, each one disappearing into the void. During my lunch break, I sat in my car in the parking garage instead of joining my team at the taco truck like usual. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I opened Instagram, something I rarely did. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just desperate for any sign she was alive, that this silence was somehow normal. I checked Tina's profile first. Her last post was from 3 days ago, a quote about new beginnings overlaid on a sunset photo. The comments were full of heart emojis from her friends. Nothing seemed unusual, but then again, social media was always a performance, wasn't it? Everyone curating their best lives. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I checked Daniel's profile. My hands were sweating as I typed his name into the search bar. It was private, but I could see his profile picture had changed recently. I clicked on it and my world tilted. It was him in a suit, professional shot, clearly taken at some corporate event. But in the background, barely visible if you weren't looking for it, was a woman's shoulder and a flash of auburn hair. Tina's exact shade, the color she dyed it 2 months ago after years of being blonde. "I need a change," she'd said then. I thought she meant her hair. I clicked on his tagged photos. There were only a few visible since his profile was locked down. Mostly corporate events, ribbon cuttings, conferences. But one, posted by Davidson Pharmaceuticals' official account 2 months ago, showed Daniel and Tina at a conference in Houston. They were standing close, closer than colleagues should stand. His hand was on the small of her back, that intimate place reserved for lovers, not bosses. Her head was tilted toward him, laughing at something, her whole body angled in his direction like a flower toward the sun. 2 months ago, Tina had come home from that conference buzzing with energy like I hadn't seen in years. She talked about the amazing connections she'd made, how Daniel had really gone to bat for her during a panel discussion about marketing strategies in pharmaceutical sales. She'd stayed an extra night, said the networking opportunities were too good to pass up. I'd been happy for her, proud even, relieved to see her passionate about work again. Now I was looking at that photo with different eyes, seeing what I'd refused to see before. I took a screenshot of the photo, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. Then I called Jake, my best friend since high school, the only person I trusted with this growing horror. "I need to see you. Now." My voice didn't sound like my own. He heard something in it because he didn't ask questions, just said, "Halcyon coffee. 20 minutes. I drove there on autopilot, running 2 red lights, not caring. Jake arrived exactly on time. He's a criminal defense attorney, sharp and cynical, the kind of guy who's seen every variation of human betrayal in depositions and courtrooms. We'd been friends since we were 15, had gone through everything together. He took one look at my face and said, "You look like hell." I showed him the screenshot without preamble. He studied it for a long moment, his jaw working like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. Then he sighed, a sound full of regret. "Stephen, I need to tell you something. I should have said it months ago, but Melissa convinced me I might be wrong and I didn't want to blow up your marriage over nothing." He looked physically pained. My blood went cold. Outside the coffee shop window, Austin traffic moved in blurs of color. "What?" "I saw Tina. About 6 weeks ago. I was at Peach, you know that French place downtown? I was there for a client dinner, we were celebrating a case victory. She was there too. With Daniel." He paused, rubbing his face. "Stephen, it was 9 o'clock on a Friday night. They were at a table in the back, the romantic corner with the candles where they do the marriage proposals. She was wearing that black dress, the one with the slit up the side that you bought her for your anniversary last year. I remembered that dress. I'd saved for 2 months to afford it, wanted her to feel beautiful. They worked together, Jake. Maybe it was a work dinner. Even as I said it, I knew how pathetic it sounded. They were holding hands across the table, Stephen. And they weren't looking at spreadsheets or laptops. They were looking at each other the way people look at each other when they are falling, when nothing else in the world exists. His voice cracked. I wanted to storm over there, wanted to punch him through the wall, but Melissa grabbed my arm and said maybe I was mistaken, that it could have been innocent, that I'd ruin everything if I was wrong. The coffee shop conversation ended with Jake's hand on my shoulder and his voice in my ear saying, "What do you need from me?" I told him I needed time to think, to process, but that was a lie. I knew exactly what I needed. I needed proof, irrefutable and documented, the kind that holds up in court and in the court of public opinion. I'm a software engineer. I know systems, I know security, and I know how to find information people think they've hidden behind passwords and privacy settings. That night I sat in my home office surrounded by monitors, the blue light washing over my face like I was drowning. I started with our cell phone records. We were on a family plan, had been since we got married, one of those small practical decisions that becomes significant later. I logged into the account and pulled 3 months of detailed records. My hands were steady now, the shock replaced by something colder and more focused. Tina's phone had been active. She was making calls, sending texts. Just not to me. The majority of her calls over the past 3 months were to Daniel's number. I cross-referenced it with his contact information from the company website just to be absolutely certain. Late-night calls. 11 at night, midnight, 1 in the morning, some lasting over an hour. All those nights she'd said she was working late or on a conference call with the West Coast team, she'd been talking to him. I remembered lying in bed, hearing her voice through the walls, soft and laughing in a way she didn't laugh with me anymore. I'd thought nothing of it. I'd been an idiot, willfully blind. Next, I checked our credit card statements, pulling every transaction from the past 6 months. Tina had a card I rarely monitored, her work expenses card that she'd eventually expense back to the company. 3 charges at Peach, the restaurant where Jake had seen them. 2 charges at the Augustine, a boutique hotel downtown with exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place featured in most romantic Austin hotels lists. Then something that made my stomach drop. A charge for flowers delivered to our house. I scrolled through my memory like corrupted data. A month ago, Tina had received flowers at work. She'd brought them home, a massive arrangement of roses and lilies, said they were from the team for closing a big deal with a hospital network. They weren't from the team. Daniel had sent them. And he'd been bold enough to send them directly. I sat there staring at the evidence spread across my screens like a map of betrayal, each data point a nail in the coffin of my marriage. But I needed more. I needed the kind of proof that couldn't be explained away, couldn't be rationalized or minimized. So Wednesday afternoon, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years, my boss concerned because I never took sick days. I told him I had food poisoning. Another lie in a world suddenly made of lies. I drove to the Augustine Hotel, that boutique place where our credit card showed 2 separate charges. The rain had started, turning Austin gray and miserable, matching my mood perfectly. I parked across the street and watched couples come and go through the entrance, each one twisting the knife deeper. Then I walked inside, laptop bag over my shoulder, playing the part of a businessman checking corporate rates. The lobby was all exposed brick and vintage furniture, Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling like amber tears. Very trendy, very Instagram-worthy, very romantic. A young woman with a nose ring stood behind the front desk, her name tag reading Madison. I approached with what I hoped was a professional smile that didn't reveal the chaos behind my eyes. "Hi, I think my company may have a corporate account here. I'm trying to confirm some past charges for expense reports." My voice sounded normal, even friendly. I'd gotten good at lying too, apparently. It was contagious. Madison looked apologetic, her fingers already moving across her keyboard. "I can't give out specific information without proper authorization, but I can tell you which companies we work with if that helps." "Perfect. Does Davidson Pharmaceuticals have an account here?" I held my breath. Please say yes, I thought. Please let there be an innocent explanation. Please let me be crazy and paranoid instead of right. She checked her computer, scrolling through what looked like a long list. Then she looked up and shook her head. "No, sir. We don't have any corporate accounts with that name. We work mostly with tech companies and a few law firms, but no pharmaceutical companies. The world crystallized. Everything came into sharp, painful focus. I thanked her, my voice coming from somewhere far away, and walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, rain drumming on the roof like funeral march, and let myself accept the truth I'd been running from since Monday. Tina was cheating on me. She'd been cheating on me for months. The rage came then, but not hot and explosive like I expected. It was cold, precise, surgical. I thought about my father, about the story he'd told me when I was 16. He'd had a business partner once, someone he'd trusted completely, who'd embezzled money from their small construction company. Everyone expected my father to confront him immediately, violently even. My father was a big man with a temper. Instead, he'd spent 6 months gathering evidence, documenting every transaction, every lie, every theft. Then he'd gone to the authorities with an airtight case and the man lost everything. His business, his reputation, his freedom. Son, my father had said, gripping my shoulder, revenge served cold is the only revenge worth serving. Make it count. I was going to make it count. Thursday and Friday, while Tina remained silent in Denver, presumably in Daniel's arms, I built my case like I was building a program. Methodical, thorough, bug-free. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Patricia who came highly recommended by Jake. Ex-FBI, specialized in infidelity cases, had testimony credentials that held up in court. I met her in her office downtown, gave her everything I had. The hotel records, the call logs, the credit card statements, the photographs from social media. She looked at me across her desk, her expression sympathetic but professional. What do you want from this, Mr. Johnson? Just confirmation, or do you want documentation that will hold up legally? Everything. I want everything documented. Photos, timestamps, witnesses if possible. I want proof so undeniable that no one can question it. My voice was steady. I felt steady for the first time in days. Patricia made one phone call to a contact she had in Denver. Private investigators have networks, apparently. People who owe favors, who can be in the right place at the right time. Friday evening, I was working from home, pretending to focus on code reviews, when my email pinged. Patricia had sent me an encrypted file with 4 attachments. 4 photographs. High resolution. Professional quality. Timestamped and geotagged. I opened them one by one, each image another confirmation of what I already knew, but seeing it made it real in a way that data couldn't. Photo 1 showed Tina and Daniel entering the Ritz-Carlton Denver, both of them laughing, his hand possessively on her lower back. She was wearing jeans and a sweater I recognized, looking relaxed and happy. Photo 2 showed room service being delivered to a suite. Saturday evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. I'd spent the day preparing, cleaning the house, grocery shopping, cooking, playing the role of devoted husband so perfectly it felt like method acting. Patricia's final report sat in my laptop bag, a bomb waiting to detonate. Her note had been clinical and thorough. They were sharing a suite, 2-bedroom layout, but hotel staff confirmed only one bed showed signs of use. They'd ordered couples massages, champagne, room service for 2. They'd been spotted in the hotel bar, the rooftop pool, the restaurant. They weren't hiding. In Denver, hundreds of miles from Austin, they felt safe. Tina came through the door around 7, dragging her suitcase, looking exhausted, but there was something else underneath. A guilty energy, like an animal that knows it's been spotted by a predator but hasn't started running yet. "Hey baby," she said, dropping her bag in the entryway. "I'm so sorry I was out of touch. It was absolutely insane. Daniel had us running literally non-stop, back-to-back meetings with the client, presentations, negotiations. My phone died twice and I couldn't find time to charge it properly." The lies came so easily to her now. I wondered when that had started, when she'd crossed the line from my honest wife to this stranger who could look me in the eye and manufacture fiction. I stood up from the couch, walked over, and hugged her. She stiffened, surprised by the affection. I could smell hotel shampoo in her hair, expensive and unfamiliar. Could smell something else too, maybe cologne, maybe just my imagination working overtime. "I missed you," I said into her hair. And I had. I missed the woman I'd married, the woman who'd promised me honesty, who'd promised I was safe. This person in my arms was someone else entirely. "I missed you too," she said, but her voice wavered, uncertain. She pulled back, searching my face for something. Suspicion maybe, or anger, but I gave her nothing. My face was a mask, carefully neutral. "How'd the pitch go?" I asked, leading her into the living room, playing my part. Great. Really great. We think we landed the client. Daniel was amazing in the room, really commanded the space. She was rambling, filling silence with words. I'd already checked. There was no major pitch, no client meetings. I'd called Davidson Pharmaceuticals' public relations line yesterday, pretended to be a journalist writing about recent deals in the pharmaceutical space. They'd been happy to tell me about their recent contracts. Nothing in Denver. Nothing even close. Sunday afternoon arrived with perfect weather, sunny and mild, the kind of Texas spring day that usually made me grateful to be alive. Today it felt like nature mocking me. Tina had spent the morning cooking, stress baking like she always did before her parents visited. Her mother Margaret and father Joseph were due at 2 o'clock for Margaret's birthday dinner, an event Tina had been planning for weeks. She'd specifically wanted to host, wanted to show her mother she'd made it, that her marriage was perfect, her life was perfect, everything was exactly as it should be in the universe. I'd helped set the table with our good china, the stuff we'd gotten as wedding gifts and almost never used. I'd made Margaret's favorite dessert, a lemon tart that took 3 hours and required a level of focus that helped keep me from thinking too much about what was coming. The dining room looked beautiful, warm and inviting, like a magazine spread about domestic bliss. Margaret and Joseph arrived exactly on time because Joseph had been a judge for 30 years and punctuality was bred into his bones. He shook my hand firmly, his grip still strong at 70. Stephen, good to see you taking care of my daughter. Margaret hugged Tina, complimented the house, the table, how well Tina looked. Marriage suits you, sweetheart. You're glowing. We ate. Made small talk about Joseph's golf game, Margaret's book club, the new restaurant opening downtown. Tina was animated, laughing, playing the perfect daughter and wife, touching my arm occasionally like we were newlyweds. I watched her performance with detached fascination. She was good at this, really good. I wondered how many other performances I'd witnessed without knowing. Then, as dessert was being served, I stood up. My heart was hammering but my hands were steady. Actually, before we have dessert, I wanted to share something. Tina, I made a little video montage of our marriage, you know, for your mom's birthday. A celebration of family and love. I pulled out my laptop from where I'd hidden it in the sideboard. Tina's face flickered with confusion. Honey, you didn't have to do that. There was a note of concern in her voice, something that suggested she sensed danger but couldn't identify it yet. I wanted to. I connected the laptop to our TV, the big screen would mounted on the dining room wall specifically for movie nights that had become increasingly rare. It'll just take a minute. The video played and the room transformed from warm celebration to crime scene in under 3 minutes. I'd edited it carefully, started with our wedding photos to lull them into comfort, then our honeymoon in Costa Rica, Tina laughing on the beach. Margaret had actually cooed, pleased. Then the images changed. Tina and Daniel at Peach, holding hands across the candlelit table, their faces close and intimate. Timestamp visible in the corner. Then the credit card statements, blown up large enough to read every detail. The Augustine Hotel, 2 separate occasions. Flowers charged to our joint account and delivered to our house, sender's name clearly Daniels. The call logs came next, hundreds of late-night calls, each one timestamped, each one lasting 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes longer. And finally, the Denver photos. All 4 of them, crystal clear and professionally shot. Tina and Daniel entering the Ritz-Carlton. Room service to their shared suite. Them in the hotel bar, his arm around her waist. The rooftop pool, her head on his shoulder, both of them looking at each other like the rest of the world had ceased to exist. I'd set it all to Chopin's Funeral March, which felt appropriate. The dining room was silent except for the music. Margaret's hand was over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Joseph had gone very still, his face turning that particular shade of red that suggested either rage or a heart attack. Tina stood up so fast her chair clattered backward, hitting the wall. Stephen, what the fuck are you doing? Her voice was shrill, panicked, nothing like the composed woman from 5 minutes ago. Language, Tina, I said calmly, pausing the video on a particularly damning photo. Your mother's here. Joseph stood slowly, his judge's bearing making him seem 7 feet tall. He stared at his daughter like she was a stranger. Tina Marie. Tell me right now this isn't what it looks like. Tell me there's an explanation that makes this make sense. Daddy, I can explain, this isn't, he took these out of context. She was scrambling, reaching for lies that wouldn't come fast enough. Margaret was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. Tina, how could you? Stephen's been nothing but good to you. He's been a perfect husband. We raised you better than this. You did this on purpose. Tina turned on me, her face twisted with rage and something else, maybe fear. You planned this. You waited until my parents were here. You did this on purpose, I corrected, my voice level. For months. I just made sure the truth came out in front of people who deserved to know it. If this shocked you, subscribe, like, comment and share. Because the next story is worse.